Good day, everyone. Have you ever considered colostrum as a real deal performance to reduce mortality? Have you ever been able to assess its quality and define strategy to improve it? In today's session, I will try to give you some answer. My name is Achille Leplat. I am the Technical Support Coordinator in the Southeast Asia region. For the last 5 years, I have been fortunate to develop a diverse insight from insect protein to essential oil and yeast bacteria solution to give you a hand to make animals reach their true potential. I'm really delighted to talk about colostrum today. I think it's the most important thing we can do for our animals, which is to ensure that all our newborn animals have adequate colostrum. I will illustrate three main outlines. What is the role in piglet survival rates? Are they getting enough? The importance here of the feed intake and the timing. And colostrum improvement, among others, the positive effect of yeast supplementation. 80% of piglet mortality happen during the first 72 hours. It's a key understanding here. A proper management of the first hours of life can help us to perform way better, to make the bond between health and performance stronger. I think the one thing I really want people to take home is a message that colostrum is the number one thing that you can do to protect the health and the performance of your pigs. It has a short-term and long-term effect, but really, colostrum is the start of life they need. Colostrum is the elixir of life. It's not easy to define as it has a changing aspect along the time, and it's variable, but its role is crucial to give you a head start to performance. And here we go. The first part of our presentation today is about the colostrum. What is its role in piglet survival rate? Piglet survival is a major problem, and especially during the first 3 days after birth. They have very low energy reserve. 80% at least come from the oxidation of glycogen stored in the liver and the muscle tissue at the fetus stage. But looking at the industry development since the 80s and its focus on piglet litter size, we reduced by a third the liver weight and so its contribution to energy. So you understand, the oxidation of glycogen is the first source of energy, and it's crucial for locomotion, vitality, and strength at birth. But we need to keep in mind that this use of glycogen is strongly related to the ability of newborn piglets to mobilize it. And despite the fact that its shortage is less than a day, we do know that its use is efficient in the first 30 minutes to reduce risk of cold sensitivity and so hypothermia. Newborn piglets have only 1 to 2% of body fat, so a low contribution as energy. And to make here an analogy with baby human, they have 12 times more energy coming from fat oxidation than piglets. Mainly explained with the breed selection and genetics to optimize litter size. You can see on the graph on the right the contribution of energy at birth coming from fat and glycogen compared to the energy requirement. Piglets at born deficient of energy, but at the same time they have a very high energy requirement because of high physical activity, high need for thermoregulation, because of their lean body with low insulination, and energy deposition and maintenance. The gap is huge, and it's clear that the piglet's energy reserve itself cannot fulfill the need. Really, at birth, the vulnerability of a piglet is really high. Low energy, low metabolic rate, and no immune protection. They are really not doing well, so we have to help them. And colostrum appears as the golden solution to help them with this energy deficiency. It brings the energy through oxidation of fat and lactose to the newborn requirement for the first 24 hours, before the milk secretion. Its dense composition is constantly changing towards milk composition, but have a significant level of protein, which largely involved immune defense agents. And of course, this gives to colostrum a really important role as immunological protector. As part of its composition, colostrum brings vitamins and minerals that contribute to the antioxidative defense system and the immunological development. It also contains some growth factors and transforming growth factor beta, which are important for the development and the maturation of the gastrointestinal tract of the baby pig. To give you a figure here, we do know that the weight of the gastrointestinal tract increased by 40% in less than 24 hours. So coming from those bioactive components. So colostrum, among the well-known contributions for immunity, also plays an important role in the development process in the growing pig. And here we are. Colostrum provides energy, antioxidant protection, but yes, before all, a strong immunological protection. First, if you have a look on the left side, the antibodies distribution is for more than 60% provided by immunoglobulin G, and this goes rapidly down in less than 24 hours after the first piglet goes out of the sow. It also contains for approximately 70% of white blood cells, in contrast to human, where 95% of the immune protection is given before the baby born. Immune cell or immunoglobulins cannot cross the placenta and bring this immunological protection before birth for our piglet. So consumption in the first hours of life is crucial for passive immunity, to get the immune cell, to get those antibodies. So now that we have a clear understanding of what are the role of colostrum as an energy contributor, antioxidant protection, and immunological protection, a good colostrum feed intake is evidence for a strong start in life. So are they getting enough? And you must be surprised, but probably not. Here are a few factors of variation to state that. Sow's parity had a significant effect on sow cholesterol immunoglobulin J concentration. First parity sows had lower cholesterol immunoglobulin G concentration when compared with sows with two parities or more. The birth order also had a significant effect on the IgG concentration. Indeed, after the first newborn and within the first 24 hours, the composition in antibodies and other bioactive compounds, growth factors, cytokines, and cells, change rapidly. We do know that approximately 6 hours after birth, the protein and immunoglobulin fraction of the colostrum decrease to 50% of the pre-nurturing values. So we can say that early born pigs have access to colostrum 50% more concentrated in total protein and immunoglobulins. This knowledge has led to the development of a swine production practices that is called split suckling, to allow early and late born piglets to have equal opportunity to acquire high level of cholesterol protein. So yes, the last born piglets might have less antibodies and colostrum compared to the first ones. And also, an important factor of variation is the breed. Breed is known to influence some component of swine colostrum, including the fat, lactose, and oligosaccharide, and bioactive compounds composition. And also, scientific literature have put evidence that induced farrowing lowers the quantity and the quality of colostrum. Vaccination and diet can trigger its quality, and that the farrowing condition can either or not support a positive strategy towards a better colostrum quality. So you got my point. Some factors that affect the feed intake and its efficiency coming from the quality of the colostrum might be reduced. And for that, timing is everything. First, in terms of energetic value. A newborn born wet and is very small, so it has a large surface area to body mass ratio, which means that the heat leaves that pig very quickly, so a high risk of getting the pigs hypothermic. So it's really important that the pig get his feed really quickly, and certainly within 30 minutes. This is what you can see on the left side, the graph, presenting here the first risk, hypothermic one. Then in terms of quality, knowing that the sow mammary secreta are gradually changed from colostrum into transient milk, and from transient milk into mature milk. Even though the colostrum quality lasts up to 24 hours after the first piglet birth, its quality is reduced by half within 6 hours. So a fast ingestion of colostrum is important to get the best quality of it. But also really important to ingest these molecules for the piglets early after birth when the gut is still leaky, because large molecules can only be absorbed as intact molecules before what we call the gut closure, what is represented on the graph as a second risk or challenge here till 24 hours. This gut closure will start actually independently to the volume of feed ingested, and after 6 hours after the first feed, it will gradually close till 24 hours. So basically, all the antibodies and other large molecules will not be able to be absorbed anymore. So pig will need, within the first 30 minutes after birth, the colostrum for energy, just a few milliliters, and within the first 6 to 12 hours for immunity, to let the antibodies to be absorbed across the gut before the gut closure. When we think about mortality, how many of them we think have not had colostrum intake? It's often estimated that about 30% of newborn dead pigs have not actually had a feed, and so they will probably have suffered from hypothermia. As I said, after birth, the energy supply is negative compared to the requirement. The heat leaves the pig very quickly, and so the risk of hypothermia is really high, especially if the pig's been born not very rapidly. It can have lost a lot of energy during the farrowing process. And as said, it's a matter of few minutes, less than 30 minutes. So it can be the little thing we do on farm, like moving the pig closer to mom, drying it, that can make a huge difference in becoming hypothermic or not, live or not. So what information to know about colostrum intake? First, when you look at the colostrum intake equation, it can be difficult to know when a piglet had enough colostrum. This equation to calculate involves some parameters that are tedious to measure. So far we know that the yield production is often comprised between 3 kg up to 8 kg. But what we do know is that milk letdown happens probably every half hour, but only in a short period of time. So the sow is not constantly milking. First, you can see on the left graph the representation of the level of protection within time, minutes, hours, days, and weeks. At the time that the colostrum antibodies are absorbed into the gut, there is a window that is a real opportunity for bad bacteria to get in before the colostrum has been ingested. And if you get that, you are really likely to suffer with disease and mortality. So the antibodies absorbed in the first days of life will reach a peak, what you can see, and then gradually decline over the coming days and weeks, and finally will meet a plateau after a certain number of weeks. But as the pigs come into contact with other bacteria and pathogens from the mammal, from the environment, they get what's called acquired immunity, which is where they start to develop their own antibodies. But what you can see here is that does not happen for quite a period of time. So as you get the decline in the colostrum antibodies, and before they get a really good acquired immunity, you've got this intersection of the two curves, where we've got here a danger point. And actually that quite often coincides with the period of weaning. So you are weaning pigs at the time where their immunity is really quite low, the lowest point since they were actually born. So it's really critical time for those pigs. And the thing is, here, if you get less colostrum or less quality of colostrum, you negatively affect the level of protection. And you add even more pressure to those critical points. The first one, within the first 30 minutes, this opportunity for bad bacteria to get in, and this intersection between the two curves, what we mentioned, the danger point. We do know that a difference of 100 grams of live weight at birth leads to approximately 30 grams more of colostrum intake, explained by a higher locomotion and vitality at birth. So the real deal is to make sure that this level of protection is homogeneous among the litter. Now, when we have a look to the right graph, you can see how the feed intake is directly linked to the mortality. It has been stated that a proper colostrum intake for health and performance should be at minimum 250 grams per piglet. And it's a real challenge when the litter size tends to increase while the number of teats are limited. Now let's start to discuss about the last part of this presentation today. What colostrum strategy can we implement? What can we do to improve piglet survival rates from a nutrition point of view? From energy perspective, we know that glycogen pools are being built up in the fetus during the last months of gestation, suggesting a possible improvement through feeding strategy. Now, if you look at the graph on the left, if you can get that level of protection higher by more colostrum or good quality of colostrum, from the yellow to the green, you can actually shift that danger point that we explained earlier up, so that when you are weaning the pigs, they are in a much better position from an immunological point of view, and they are less likely to succumb from post-weaning diarrhea and respiratory disease. So what could be the right strategy to do this shifting? First, it's a matter of timing. The first colostrum component, the beta-lactoglobulin, is produced around day 80 of gestation. But the last week of gestation is important for colostrum yield, meaning that nutrition can modulate colostrum quantity and quality from 3 weeks before farrow. If we talk about the energy level in the diet and the colostrum production, the link is not very clear, but altering dietary fat has been shown to quickly alter colostrum fat composition. Also, some studies have shown that the colostrum intake is associated with an increased short-chain fatty acid in sow plasma, suggesting here the strong importance of a good fiber fermentation mechanism in the lower gut of the sow to improve the piglet's feed intake. And we do know with strong evidence that yeast being fed to sows can increase the immunoglobulin concentration in colostrum, illustrated on the right. Also knowing that Brix level is correlated to the immunoglobulin G concentration in colostrum, it's possible to assess the quality in the farm and modulate it to increase the level of protection, give better immune protection for the piglets on the short and longer run. At this stage of the presentation, I hope I've been able to share with you interesting insight about colostrum and performance. To wrap up the key messages, colostrum is all about what I like to define the golden rule or the golden principles. Gold for its color, of course, but before all, for the main things to follow: quality, quantity, and to get it quick to strengthen the bond between health and performance. And this directly after birth that will last up to the acquired immunity around the weaning. First, strong key point that we mentioned is that colostrum is the first external source of energy that provides antioxidative protection from the reactive oxygen species building up from the respiratory system activation, and also served a long-term effect providing immunological protection through immunoglobulins enzyme growth factor transfer for the defense system. So a real important point here to assess the quality in the farm and then to be able to modulate to your own circumstances through nutrition and supplementation. The second important point here is about the quantity. The feed intake is crucial to develop a strong level of protection and ensure survivability. It has been stated that a minimum of 250 grams of colostrum per piglet is a minimal to promote performance and health, gut maturation, and a strong level of protection. Increased piglet vitality can also be done working on a smoother fowling process and also with assistance. And finally, the last point, and a real deal, really important about the timing. Timing is everything. Get the colostrum quick. Within the first 30 minutes after birth, pig will need the colostrum for energy. Just a few liters, and from 6 to 12 hours for the immunity before the gut closure is completed by about 24 hours. So each piglet should get the first colostrum as soon as possible, and if needed, assist the piglets to be closer to the teat. Here, the small details can make a huge difference. I'd like to thank you for your attention